What's up, guys? I'm here with Heather and Eli, and they were able to quit their job selling on Amazon in just 1 year. Eli was able to quit. Then shortly after that, Heather quit 1 year later. They're at 650,000 in sales over the last 12 months. And in this podcast, we're going to break down how they did it and how you can too. Welcome to the Amazon Savages podcast.
Welcome to the Amazon Savages podcast. Hear the stories of Amazon sellers crushing it in the game and keep up with the latest strategies that are working. Sit back, relax, and remember, if you truly try and work really hard, you will make a ridiculous amount of money selling on Amazon.
But you actually have to put the work in and try. Was it easy, Eli and Heather?
No,
Never.
it's still not easy.
Yeah, it's still not easy. You got to put the work in. You gotta do it. So kind of walk us through a little bit about how you got started and ultimately to the point where you're doing 650,000 every 12 months.
Sure. I'll start just because this was not something that I ever thought about or wanted to do. And in fact, was very much like, no, we're not doing that. You're crazy. And Eli was doing a lot of research while he was working. We were working from home. Both of us, it was pandemic time, right? And he was doing all this research and we were talking. And I was like, you're crazy. We're not doing this. You got to stick with it, W-2 it. You got to make your money, put it away, save it for later in life. And that's it. That's all that mattered to me. And so then we started watching YouTubes and we started following all of these Amazon sellers in that especially social media space. And I started I don't know, that's kind of an okay idea for a side hustle. Mm-hmm. And Eli was like, no, we're doing it. And I was very timid. So I think, especially since you said he quit after a year and it took me a lot longer than that, Eli can explain it a bit better probably of how that happened.
Yeah. So I was working and my job was as a mortgage underwriter. I could see everyone's incomes and their credit and their debt across the 48 states. And what I saw was that the people who ran businesses had much more leverage ability when it came to loans and getting big loans and bigger loans. And the people that were working for W-2s were pretty capped out. So I did some research and it took me about a year to convince her to jump on. And I had big dreams to go really big, but I convinced her that we would try to make $10,000 profit in a year. And if we did, as a side hustle, that I would take her on a really, really nice vacation. And we didn't know COVID was right around the corner. We didn't know what was coming. But we made that within 45 days of just grinding the first 45 days. And suddenly she opened up her mind a bit and was like, you know what? I see what you've been trying to tell me. Because I was following the social media. I was following along. I was kind of like paper trading, trying to do it on the side without spending money, just checking a Keep a chart and pretending I bought 10 and watching it for a month and seeing what I might have made if I had bought the 10 or lost. And that really gave me a good understanding of the, in a way, the golden egg that Amazon holds. And once we made that, she allowed us to put a bigger part of our nest egg into the business. We set aside a chunk of money. I think that's important to understand, is that we saved up and set aside a chunk of money that enabled us to scale maybe a little faster. Mm-hmm. And as people who had W-2s, we had access to credit that also enabled us to scale a little faster. So those were two key things that from the jump really helped us to grow as fast as we did.
Mm-hmm. And what did so you're doing RA starting out, OA? What type of purchasing are you doing?
We did 2 weeks of RA. So after work, we're running around. And prior to this, we were not people who spent money on credit cards ever. We had them, but it was just for emergency. And we weren't really shoppers. So those 2 weeks were hell. I mean, we hated it, every second of it. And we were brand new, so we did terribly. We couldn't find anything hardly. It was like hours of just nothingness.
I feel like I was in the store like, this is bullshit. I changed my mind. Like, never mind. This is stupid. Nothing works, and I hate all of you. That's how I felt.
What kind of made you think retail arbitrage is like a good go? Was it like Reezy resells, or who was on social?
Reezy, Flips for Miles, Warner.
Dang, we're getting old. You guys were watching Flips for Miles 3 years ago?
We were watching them before the Discord even happened.
Yeah.
Like long before that.
Wow.
I was watching Miles
old now, because like I remember when Miles started posting on social, and I was like, this kid's really consistent. He's posting every day, even though he's not getting that many views. And now people will know Miles before they know Reezy.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is crazy. So, but most people, if you ask them how they got started selling on Amazon, it's Reezy first.
Yeah, that's true. Well, what I can say is one of the biggest things in this was watching. We're not young people anymore. We're younger than some, right? In life. But watching these very young people doing it, like just getting it and going, and we're like, we're pretty smart people in general. And I think we're really good at learning from the younger generation, the much younger sometimes, was really helpful for us.
Yeah.
For sure. We come from a time when, people couldn't believe if Elvis was really dead or alive, and, rotary phones. And so for us to watch young people using technology in a way that everyone has already in their hands, you already have this technology, and they were able to monetize it and use it in a really smart, analytical way. It blew my mind. I was like, this is amazing. We have so much to learn from people younger than us. Even you yourself, the next graduating high school class, never grew up without this in their hand. Right. You know what I mean? There's never a time they even knew without that. We come from a time when people were still playing kickball. That was the most technologically advanced thing. And, that really inspired us to get with the program and to just think outside the box. Yeah. And you don't have to recreate the wheel. Jeff Bezos didn't recreate the wheel. He just refined systems and took what was already there and optimized logistics. And we can copycat and do the same thing. Yeah. If you can take products in your local area and get them into the hands of people who need them, and make a little money in the middle, that's the name of the game. You just need to get a little piece of the pie.
Right. The first 10K in sales, what did that come from?
RA. Mostly I would say grocery RA.
Yep. We started hitting out in grocery, at the Walmarts, at the grocery stores.
You just use the Amazon seller app, going out, scanning. What kind of walk us through? Like, what was your clearance aisle? Like, what was your go-to?
Yep. We did clearance aisle. We did a lot of Legos at first. We hit on a game at Kohl's. We found this game that sold hundreds a month, but it only had like 5 sellers, FBA. And we just bought. I convinced her within 2 months of selling. I said, we're going to go deep. We bought 500. They sold in like 40 days. We bought 500 more. Christmas was coming. I bought like 3 more 500s.
And I have to say, we bought this from Kohl's online. We found it in store at Kohl's, and then we looked online. And I guess this was before Kohl's was like, time out, you can't order this much. And so we were ordering, 200 at a time, 200
easily
from Kohl's online, and they were sending
Kohl's
it to us.
Weird. Like Kohl's was the one. So I did like 300,000 OA last year, and Kohl's was the one that they would cancel, but you could order again, and then they wouldn't cancel.
Yeah.
But there was some websites where if they canceled, you're screwed.
Yeah.
But Kohl's always
they never canceled us once.
Really?
And it was weird. We were expecting it.
I was spinning like crazy, and I kept getting cancels. I asked all my friends, they're like, just keep ordering. And if you keep ordering, eventually they don't get canceled. And if you, even if you email their support and you're like, hey, I'm a real person trying to order, I think it's like more of like them trying to prevent like bots or something. I think there's a lot of fraud that goes on rather than them trying to prevent resellers.
Yeah. Well, and I think that Kohl's also has this very lenient return policy too, where it's like, no, don't worry about sending us any of the products that we mailed you. We'll just give you your money back. And so they're trying to watch out for that kind of scamming too. So
Right.
Yeah. So finding that one ASIN, really, it made the system click for us. So we're out there with their Keepa, we're out there with Seller App, just trying to see what the numbers are and what the volumes are, the expected frequency of sales on the products, making sure that we can get our 30%. We just strictly went by the numbers back then. Yeah. The kids were saying 30%. That's what we did.
And we made some big mistakes. I mean, not like, luckily it was discount grocery, right? So it wasn't going to break the bank, but we made some big mistakes where we're like, all right, food bank, here we come with all this shit that nobody wants.
Yeah. But it clicked, and that kind of even more proved that it was possible. Yeah. We knew we just had to get really, really good at analyzing products and analyzing the data. Mm-hmm. If you're kind of artsy fartsy about it, no shame on people who like to make art, but that's not what this is about. This is not about empathizing with the products or having an intuition. If you're that kind of person, it's not for you.
That's Taylor Jones.
Yeah,
you can't be emotionally attached to your products or the products.
Taylor Jones claims to be like that, but the funny thing about Taylor is he's actually really mathematical when it comes to actually solving a problem. So he's like, abundance, you have to have a good attitude and good things will come to you, and let's go to the store with a good attitude and good things will happen. But then, like, when he gets stressed, he always goes back to, what are other people doing that are getting results? What can I do to replicate them? What do I like? And so it's like, there is a balance, like you do have to go in the store with, or if you're calling wholesalers or whatever, scanning books, whatever you're doing, if you go in with like seeking, you shall find, if you go in with a good attitude, you're going to be more likely to see profitable product because you're actually looking for it. You're actually trying. And that's really important. Rather than going in like all poopy pants and like, not scanning everything and be like, oh, there's no profit in here. Well, how many items did you scan? That's what I always tell people. Like, how many items did you actually scan? Do you scan 1,000 and you really didn't find anything? Okay, you're fucking lying because you didn't scan 1,000.
Or don't know what you're looking at. You're doing it wrong.
You might be doing it wrong.
So I feel like one of the main things for me is, and I still find myself doing it sometimes, the why. Like, why are people buying this stuff? Why? And it's like, no. You got to cross that why out. There's not a why doesn't this, why does it? It's just a does it or doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. At first, it was kind of unbelievable. Like, I was finding cans of beans that I could buy for 50 cents and they were selling for $10 a can. And I'm like, who pays $10 for a can of beans? But you got to wipe that out your mind, like she said. And so within a few weeks, a few things fell into place very quickly. That one, I sort of wasted a long time doing homework. And that if I had started within 2 months of catching on to the idea, we'd only have been that much further along and that much more experienced. You learn by doing, and watching all those people on videos do it for a year didn't give me near the experience that 3 weeks in got me.
Yeah.
So that's a huge takeaway. Number two, it clicked for us by doing that RA was not the way, that it was either for us going to be OA or wholesale. And we started to think about scalability. So for us having jobs, we figured wholesale might be the way because we did have access to credit and we did have a little nest egg to put into it.
Right.
So we started strategizing and we ended up going to a manager of a store and they hooked us up with a distributor. Sorry. And I went to the distributor. I called him on the phone, not knowing really what I was doing, but being an adult, having had professional conversations around business, we both were able to kind of bluff our way through. And the guy just told me over the phone in the first conversation, you got to spend $3,000 and I'll send you a new list every week.
30% off.
And I'll give you 30% off the list. And I was like, oh, like, yes, this is working. Right. So it really just clicked right away. We started buying and buying and buying and buying. And then very quickly just started looking for more and more wholesalers, more vendors, more distributors.
What's your go-to tactic for that? Like for people listening, I got a bunch of booksellers and OA people listening. If they want to add wholesale, what kind of strategies do you recommend? Like what actionable steps can they take?
I mean, when we first started, we just went. We got in the car and we would drive to industrial areas.
That's next level.
I mean, we would drive. While we're driving there, I'm driving. She's looking on the highway at local trucks and she's writing down like, oh, there's a local Italian specialties truck. Let's check them out.
Right. And you already had the confidence from the little RA that you did that, hey, we can sell profitable products. Now it's just, let's get more of them.
Yeah. And I think it's a matter of, and I know that a lot of people don't like this, but it's a matter of building relationships, and you have to build most of the time. You have to try to build face-to-face relationships for that first account, at least. If you're trying for wholesale and you walk into a distributor and you say, hey, I'm Eli, I'm Heather, we run a business, we sell on Amazon. We're completely honest with everything. Yep. And what do you have? What can we do? Can we look around? That's how we got 4 or 5 of our local-ish to us accounts for distributors here. We just walked in and we gave them our sales license and said, we want to see what we can do. And then we've got them calling us. Hey, we've got this new stuff in. You want it? Right. Check it out. And then also we have a distributor that tells us, oh, my other Amazon seller who lives in Arkansas is selling this thing. What do you guys think? And we're like, I mean, we'll check it out. If it works, we'll buy it all.
And they prefer you because you're close. You can just go pick it up.
We're right there. And we can either have them deliver it or we can go and pick it up in person.
Yeah. So like, are you guys like Googling beauty distributors or grocery, or are you just, you said you were driving around looking for stuff? Can you kind of walk me through what were you looking
when we first started? We got our LLC and our reseller's license so that we look professional. We did have we got a real email address, at ourbusiness.com. And it just like threw us over the edge with the competition. When we walk in and they say, oh, you can't shop here.
Doesn't even walk in half the time. Is
right.
So you guys beat them there.
That, and the next thing they say is you can't shop here, or this is private B2B only. And you're like, oh, bam, I got you. Here's my credentials. And they're like, oh, great. Nice to see you. How are you? What are you here for?
Right.
Do you have an appointment or whatever? And you're like, no, I don't, but I do have a check. I know that you have brands I want to sell. I've got about $5,000 to spend today. Yeah. And suddenly they're like, oh, let me get the salesman up here. Hold on. Wait a minute. Do you have an account? You're like, no, I have a check. I want to spend $5,000 today. And they're scrambling.
Sure. But to answer your question, Avery, on top of this walking in, this other way that we're doing it is we are going through our catalog. We look through our catalog of what brands we're selling, what's selling great, what's doing well, and then we look for distributors of that product. And then once we find a distributor that sells that product, then we get their list. We can buy that product plus whatever else we get from their list.
Mm-hmm. Then you can pit them against each other. You can say, hey, vendor A has this on sale this month for 20 cents cheaper. Can you do 30 cents cheaper? Can you match at least? Or what can you do? And it tends to work out. I mean, just showing your face there gives you 2 advantages. You're doing the work and you've made it easy for them to make a sale.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you also have to not be offended by the word no. Yep. Don't take it personally if they tell you no. Okay, move on. Next thing. You're not going to get kicked out of the distributor because they said, no, we don't want to sell you. They're just like, no, we don't want to. And you say, okay, thank you, and move along and keep going.
We've walked into plenty of places that it doesn't work out at all.
Sure.
Like we've walked into places that make goods for gift shops, and we didn't know. It says wholesale outside, but they make custom goods. They make little flags for your state or pins for your state, stuff that's not branded.
Yeah.
And okay, just go next door. Go to the next one. Go to the next one. The more you go, the more you get it under your belt. I'm at the point now where I can go onto Google Maps and drive around any major city in America and find distributors from my computer right here, because I did it for, just like you scan Walmart all day or you scan Target or Kohl's, I did that drive and we found them and it worked. And now I can do that on Google Maps.
Yeah.
You could drop me on a corner in LA and I can find you distributors on the computer.
Yeah.
What's your go-to tactic? You don't have to give away like the exact type of distributor, but what are you searching on Google Maps?
I mean, it just depends. I'm looking for industrial areas. I'm physically looking. I'm not searching like for a keyword or anything. I'm looking for crappy areas where
you're doing like
lots of
satellite view,
Right.
going around.
Yep. You can tell. You can always tell where there's factories and the values are going down. And
what do you do? Do you do you have Google Maps show the businesses, or do you like click and see what is that?
I'll go walk the street, like go to street view and just peer around. And
wow, okay.
You can find all kinds, like especially in New York City. I mean, in between every corner store and liquor store is a little mini distributor that's nondescript that just says JS Wholesale or RJL Wholesale.
So you're going satellite view for people listening, and then you're actually, there's something called Street View on Google Maps, which drops you in person, and then you're kind of like, you can toggle around and like view the street, and then you're zooming in on the names of businesses. There's one there, and then you're physically driving there, or do you call first?
Yeah, then I'm calling, seeing how I can get in touch. I'll Google the business, make sure it's legit, how long it's been there, et cetera, et cetera.
Nice.
You really want to vet, when you're doing
I've really heard of that technique. That's really cool.
Well,
did y'all make that up yourself, or did you hear from somebody else about that?
I just wanted to get into other cities doing what I was doing without having to go there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we just made it up, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
it works. It works.
Yeah.
Another way, I mean, the most common, easiest way is you can Google wholesale or any quantity like bulk, lots, whatever, huge lots, that
liquidation.
Kind of thing.
I'm kidding.
Don't do that. Plus your town, your city, your metropolitan area, plus your niche. So if it's baby goods, grocery, toys, whatever it is, health and beauty, home and garden, whatever, and you'll find stuff. You can do that for every city, insert city, and just keep going. Bulk quantities. Even, I know liquidation's not good, but there are lots of reputable closeout dealers that get goods. I mean, that's what Ross and TJ Maxx are. There are plenty of good wholesale closeouts that work.
Sure.
You really have to make sure the invoice is going to work and be smart. Just be smart about who you're dealing with.
Would you recommend people take the same route you guys did? So start with RA and then add wholesale?
The first thing I recommend is everyone keep their jobs.
Yeah.
Keep their jobs. Don't quit your job for as long as you can, because that allows you to keep the money in the business, which allows you to scale exponentially faster.
Well, and I would say wholesale is a really hard thing to start with. Unless you just have all of the room in the world wherever you live, and you can just have, pallets and pallets and pallets delivered down your long ass driveway to your giant house or wherever already. It's easier and a better way to figure it out, starting with RA, OA. So then you can at least get your feet wet, understand what you're looking for, how you're reading charts. Is it working? Are you doing it right? Do your research. Do as much research as you can, but don't wait, a year or whatever you said.
I think that wholesale is a lower margin, longer play. It's more about building that relationship and greasing those wheels so that you can grow in a slower, steadier pace, but you have to have a little chunk of money to start. Whereas with RA and OA, you get these huge margins. You can get thousands % margin on a book that you paid $1 for. Yeah. You're not going to see that in wholesale.
Right.
But you're going to see steady replens where you can go back, for not forever, but for a few months, for up to 6, 7, 8 months sometimes, and rebuy the same thing at the same price. I can't buy that same book over and over, but it just depends. Some people are after the hunt. Some people can't stand to sit at home and be on their computer, and they got to run from thrift store to thrift store to thrift store. But that wasn't for us. And it was way better for us to be just the way our day was, to be making those phone calls, building those relationships, getting a known amount of goods delivered week after week, and growing steadily, slowly but steadily.
Yeah. I mean, we filled our
Go ahead.
house. We filled our house completely with stuff. Every hallway, every room, every extra space was full of stuff. We don't have a garage. We live in Colorado. We just have a carport. So deliver to our driveway, unload into our house, and then work from there. And I think if that was very close to crushing us, like mentally, emotionally, like we can't just do this in our house forever if we're going to be ordering this kind of weight, this kind of volume. And so you have to consider your resources and consider where you are in life. Yeah. Do you live in your parents' basement? Do you live in the attic room of frat house? Like, it just really depends on where you are and what you can do. But I wouldn't recommend personally starting with wholesale.
Yeah. And do you guys use any prep centers or no?
We did in the beginning. And then we got really burned by a prep center. And then we never went
back. Was it
back.
Tiger Lily?
No, it was more local to us, closer to us.
Don't use Tiger Lily prep, guys.
What's that?
Don't use Tiger Lily prep. They're the worst prep center.
That's what I've heard. We've heard lots about that. But this prep center, we were like, oh, they're, close enough to us that we could give a call and, figure out what's going on. And it just, they lost half our stuff, broke it. It was a mess.
They didn't have the right systems in place.
And how many units a month are you guys personally prepping?
We were at this time last year, we were at like 7,000 a month, and we've halved that this year, but we've like quadrupled our ASP.
Nice.
So we're pushing the same numbers with half as many products.
Yeah.
Half as many units. It's been a lot easier for us.
Yeah.
It took time. It took proof of concept. It took confidence to be able to buy more expensive items, to go deeper, to go after things that maybe aren't on the beaten track. Yeah. But we've been able to do that.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit scarier when you're buying 50-cent cans of beans compared to $45, $50 products that you're selling for $1.50 or something. It's like way easier to buy all the beans.
Yep. You screw up, it's like 50 cents, whatever. It's like,
right.
You buy a bunch of books, you buy a Gaylord of books, a pallet of books, who cares? Like, you're going to make profit if you scan all of them. Like, it's almost impossible not to. But when you start investing thousands of dollars, I remember a few years ago, I was with Caleb Roth, my mentor, the book flipper, and we were at a college, and we were hoping to get like 10 to 15K profit scanning these books at the college. And then Jameson, Philippi, he messages me. He's like, yeah, I just spent like $2,000 on Lego. And I was like, are you serious? I was like, we're at this college. We didn't pay $2,000 for these books. Like, we don't even know if we paid anything. I think we got them for free. And I'm just like, I remember looking at Caleb. I'm like, dude, he just spent $2,000 on Lego. And then Caleb was like kind of unimpressed. And he's like, you'll get there one day. And I just remember thinking like, holy shit, like, that's so much money to spend on product. I just couldn't fathom it. But now, it's like, spending $50K a month is like, okay, that's kind of like normal. It's like not that big.
It's a huge mindset leap. And not everyone should, if you're watching videos where people get these growth overnights, these huge growth from 0 to Lambo in 6 months, either they're lying or they've had huge amounts of sleepless nights and personal growth, because just flipping from the mindset of using coupons and buying on sale groceries for yourself to spending 50K on product, to make that leap overnight, it's not going to happen. Yeah. You've got to prove it to yourself that you can do it. You've got to watch your profits. You've got to know your profits. you've got to know all your numbers, and it's very analytical. I think everyone should take a course in bookkeeping and revenues, even if you just ask ChatGPT to teach you. I think there's a lot of sellers out here making videos saying that they're making XYZ profits, and they have no idea how much they're losing. And you watch the longevity of some of the people, and their fires burn very bright, and then they burn out very fast. And it's always sad to see that happen.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for everybody.
What kind of metrics are you tracking? Weekly, monthly?
Everything. We track everything.
Oh yeah, everything. We also hired a bookkeeper. So we have an accountant / bookkeeper, CPA, whatever you want to call it, to manage all of that, all of the stuff that I don't want to learn how to do. And that she's already an expert. We found a CPA that was already very well versed in Amazon and the e-sellers whole space. And so I think that was one of the biggest things. We track all of the other stuff. We track our buys, we track our sales, we track everything. But having that person, this other entity separate from us who has no emotional connection to our finances, telling us, hey, you need to spend more and do more, or you need to pull back a little bit and stop. Right.
Yeah.
And someone else looking at our numbers for us and telling us, hey, this is really good, or not so much, is really helpful. I think that's the biggest part of tracking for us.
But we also track how long, like with books, you probably don't necessarily track how many and how long they've been in stock, right?
Yeah. Well, what we track is turn rate. So if you have 1,000 books, you want to sell about 20%. So you should be selling about 200 per month.
Okay. For us, I'm tracking if I bought 100 in a month, did I sell 100 in a month, or 80, or did I sell 100 in a week? Then that's
with booksellers, 20% is pretty good. But I think with wholesalers, you guys want to sell more. Like I personally, with my wholesale business, I mean, I'm just getting back up and running after my account shutdowns. But this summer, I was at 90,000 in sales a month, and I was probably selling 35-40% of my inventory each month, which maybe that's a little low, but I know some people, when I started doing other products, I would always ask people like how much you sell each month, how much you sell. And everyone told me that they should be selling like 100% in 2 months.
Yeah.
100%. So if you have 1,000 units in stock, you should be selling 1,000 every 2 months is what the consensus was for OA and wholesale. A lot of people told me that every 60 days sell through.
Yeah. And we looked at it at a 6-week metric. So we were always trying to sell like 80% every 6 weeks so that I never ran out of stock.
Right.
I always knew that extra 20% was already bought and paid for. Like I had earned the profits. Even if we didn't sell it, we were still profitable. Right. And that leftover was just enough to keep me in stock till I could buy it again. Right. So we always looked at everything, and we still do, as a 6 weeks process. I'm always trying to see how much do I need for 6 weeks and how much can I buy for 6 weeks.
Yep.
Food and grocery, I think for anyone starting out is like clutch. I feel like it's the gradual progression right after books. You can get into food and groceries so cheap and so easy, and it's so widely available.
Yeah.
There's distributors in every state. There's distributors everywhere. There's closeouts. And I just think that it's so low barrier to entry. Even if it doesn't work out, you get to eat it. Like literally, you get to write it off and eat it.
Yeah. And it's low risk too when it comes, there's not returns. There's not, there's a lot of stuff that you don't have to deal with when it comes to selling food and grocery.
I think that's great for beginners. We've since moved on and started to transition our business largely out of those niches, but they're great low barrier to entry.
Yeah, I think finding a category and dominating it. So if you're starting with used books, stay at it for a few months, turn your capital, and then find another category that you're super comfortable with. So here's a dashboard for GoToLister users. Got a lot of GoToLister people listening to the pod. You can track what your profit is each month. So this is what I track. These are kind of like the metrics I track. It's like, okay, 40K sales, great. That's great for Instagram. That's great for flexing. But how much of that is actually profit? And since when you list with GoToLister, whether you're listing books, online arbitrage product, or wholesale product, you put in what you paid for the product. So if you paid $50 for a product, you put $50. And if you sold it for $100, after Amazon fees, maybe you're left with a true $10, $20 profit. And so this profit is after all Amazon FBA fees and after what you paid for the product. This is kind of this just gives you an idea of, are you making good purchasing decisions? Because if the lower this is, the worse. And you can see it's almost like a 25% margin, 40K sales, about 10K profit, 9K profit. And so that just shows me that we're making relatively good purchasing decisions for items sold. Now, as Eli, you were mentioning that, a lot of Amazon sellers don't look at the right numbers. Really what you should be digging into, and Caleb, again, he still mentors me to this day. Like, that man teaches me so much. And he was talking to me and Taylor, and he was like, dude, he's like, you guys need to be pulling more money out of your businesses. Like, the only proof that your Amazon business is working, the only proof is that your bank account's going up.
Yes.
If your bank account is not going up, you actually don't have proof it's working. I don't care what GoToLister says right here. Oh yeah, it says it's profitable, but like, maybe you have 70K in inventory tied up. Let's sell that shit and get that money back in your bank account. But I would say, profit, I track that on a weekly basis. Items listed for booksellers, this is super important. Like, the more items you list, the more money you make. And it's probably kind of similar for wholesale. Like, I don't really care how much. I care more about spend with wholesale, which we'll have as a metric soon. But like, I care, did I spend 10K this month on wholesale? That's not much at all. I know I'm probably going to get 12.5K back. But if I spent 50K, okay, now we're talking. Now I'm in 5 figures profit. So like, with the book business, measure how many items you sent in, because as long as your average sales price is good, you're healthy. As long as this doesn't drop too far below $18, you're probably pretty safe as a bookseller. And to your point, Eli, you said you're prepping less items now. And so you're prepping less items, your average sales price is higher. Your Amazon payouts are probably higher because your average sales price is higher. And so for booksellers, like, you want this to be above $20. That's pretty healthy. But even this is my wholesale account, $48.
That's great.
This is kind of like personal. It's not like no rule of thumb. Like, oh, if you have an average sales price of $70, like, you have a perfect business. But it's important to take note of, because an Amazon seller who does 100,000 in sales with an average sales price of $90 is very different than an Amazon seller who does 100,000 in sales with average sales price of $7. That's right. The Amazon seller who has an average sales price of 90 is probably going to receive an $80,000 payout from Amazon. So he's going to have $80,000 land in his bank. And the Amazon seller that has an average sales price of 7 could maybe only have like a $10,000 payout. Amazon will take 90,000 in fees. So keeping a higher average sales price equates to more money in your bank from Amazon. So this is kind of what we track. And we're going to add some cool stuff in here. Let me know if you guys want anything. I was just talking to someone earlier, and they wanted a metric where they wanted buy cost. So what they spent on inventory divided by sales each month. So what they spent on inventory for inventory sold divided by total number of sales. And they're trying to keep that number below 54%. So if they can keep that number before 54%, it means that they're selling through enough of their inventory and they're making good purchasing decisions. So,
Avery, do you have somewhere in here to add other cost of goods, like your prep costs? Or
not yet? That's coming soon. So net profit reports, where you can just download a report and give it to your CPA with all that. We're actually working on that now. First, we're banging out inventory, so you'll be able to manage all your inventory from here, see what your restocks are, stuff like that. But then net profit is a hugely requested. So this is kind of like just gross profit, which is sales minus Amazon FBA fees minus buy cost. But yeah, if you want to import prep cost, gas cost, whatever else, Miami Sellers Conference cost, whatever it is, you throw it in here and, kind of lower what your actual profit is. And a lot of people don't want to do that. Like, a lot of people have willful blindness in their Amazon business because they would rather just not see it.
Yep. I was talking
they would
to
rather
someone,
see that profit and be like, oh, that's how much I'm making, but they're not considering everything else.
Right?
Yes, absolutely. I was just talking to another person. They do about half wholesale and half OA. And they were saying that they were willing to lower their OA percentage ROI to like 20% last year. And when they came time to actually review their books, they were running at like 10% on that side of their business. And they were like, forget this. We either have to do more wholesale or we have to bring that ROI minimum up to like 35, 40%, just because their other costs that they had built in were so high.
Sure.
And that's where you can work with your CPA or yourself and look at the numbers. We looked at the numbers with our CPA about a year and a half ago. And she said, hey, you're paying more in Amazon fees than other sellers in your level that I work with. And we scratched our heads and said, well, what can we do to that? Anyway, it worked out to where we stopped sending any SPD. We started sending all LTL. Our Amazon fees shot way down. You know, like those shipping costs really for us, for the number of units we were sending, it made a huge difference to where it was noticeable. And we made a big change.
Yeah.
Your business might be different. You know, if you're in New York and you're sending to New York SPD every day, well, that's nothing. But we're out here in Denver. We got to get stuff to the coast. So, you know, you got to look at your business, do what works for you, pour more fire on what is working, and consistency wins. Like you started out talking about Miles. He's overtaking Reezy, and it's just because he's
Not
grinding.
quite. He's getting there. His YouTube channel's getting there. But in terms of like being top of mind, I would say Miles is kind of like definitely up there right now.
He's on the tip of your tongue every minute, every day, everywhere you look. So it's hard not to.
Yeah,
it's hard to miss.
Reezy Resell, step it up. What are you doing? You're too comfortable.
Oh,
Hey, he's a grown man. He's got bills to pay.
he bought a house.
He's got families to feed.
Hey, Miles is a grown ass man down in Miami. He's living that life. You know, he's got the shawties to take care of. He's stuffing it up.
I mean, Miami's not cheap, so
That's true.
I get you.
Yeah, Miami might be it's not more expensive than Cali. That's where Reezy's at. Reezy just bought a new house. So
Yeah.
But you know, you
they'll
can't
both be at
yourself.
Miami Stars Conference this year. So.
You can't compare
Nice.
yourself. You got to do you. You got to do what works for you. Stop having FOMO. Take massive action and change your freaking life.
Yeah,
I'm tired
and
of
if you
people
have the
sitting around.
FOMO, use that FOMO to take the action.
Right.
You're probably not
Use that to
happy.
motivate yourself.
Yeah,
Don't just sit around and be salty about it.
exactly.
You see us doing what we're doing. We were watching from the fences one day too. So come on, just give it a shot. Yeah, you're gonna make mistakes. We bought products that we had to eat or throw in the trash, and you know it happens. I hear somebody out there bought a bunch of candles and doesn't know if they're gonna make it into Amazon, broken or what, and you know shit happens. But if you don't try, you're never gonna get there.
Right.
Yeah.
Never.
What secret have you learned that's helped grow your Amazon business?
What's your secret?
I don't have a secret. What's your
Secret that helps grow
What's
the
something
business?
you learned that you didn't really know of that helped you grow your Amazon business? I mean, you just talked about shipping. That I would say that could be one, but is there anything else like that?
I mean, two things, and they're totally opposite. But one thing is that I used to think it was a joke, this talk about go to the gym and work out and your whole life will be better, or make time for the gym in the morning or whatever. That shit's true. Because we didn't used to work out. We were okay. We weren't like totally out of shape. But once we started dedicating our discipline to our fitness, everything improved.
Sure.
Yeah.
Everything across the board. The discipline that it brings about in your mind affects everything.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And the second thing on the totally opposite side of things is if you're in competition for the buy box with someone, penny for penny, and they won't let up, throw a coupon on there, because the repricers don't catch the coupons. So you could actually raise your price. They'll raise their price to match you, and then you can throw a 5% coupon on there and catch all the sales.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good secret.
So
Yeah.
I like it.
I like that. What's a common myth?
That it's a like passive job. I think it's probably what everybody says is that Amazon's this passive income that you're just like, click $1 million. I'm going to Miami. Like that's not how it works. And it's a lot of work. And it's a lot of, you put a lot of strain on yourself and your life.
Yeah.
And if you can make it through that, you're good.
it's a roller coaster.
It's a roller coaster for sure. I feel like, every other month, Eli and I are going to kill each other. But we get through it and we work through it in our own ways. And, now we've got our really good systems in place and we know what we're doing, we think anyway, and it's working for us. So it's not passive. That's the myth that I can say is the biggest myth that you hear constantly all of the time, that it's just this easy, quick moneymaker.
Right. What was your favorite part about Miami Sellers Conference?
My favorite part was the actual get together, the like meet and greet, whatever you want to call it, the networking event the night before the conference, because I feel like it had a really good vibe, and you got in the room with a lot of people that usually you wouldn't, and you could just have some real candid conversations. And I feel like we learned a lot from that.
Yeah, we're going to do that again this year for sure. This year, we're only going to do it for paid attendees, which basically was all the people that came last year. There was a few people that sneaked in for the freebie, but we have a really nice venue. So we're going to, it'll be by the river. And so we'll have that again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where else can you pay a couple $100 to rub elbows with business owners running multi-million-dollar businesses that are willing to actually give you the time of day and lay it out on the table and talk openly and candidly about what it takes and how to get there and what you can do to be like them?
Yeah.
I mean, for an 18-year-old, I met an 18-year-old kid there last year who worked at Amazon. He made like $10 an hour and he's like, how can I do this? How can this be me? And we talked and, he's trying to do it. And where else can that happen? He's talking to me and we're all sitting there talking to Eric and Sebastian and Thomas in Mexico, and it's like, where else is that going to happen? Organically like that.
Right. A Fast Track FBA.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna have him speak this year. We're gonna have him do something. So
nice. Yeah, I like that you guys are splitting it up a little bit, separating it into 2 days.
Yeah,
not that it wasn't.
And we just found out we're gonna do the yacht. I was talking to Taylor yesterday. He's like, I brought it up. Taylor's gonna say yeah. Like, I'm just like, should we have a yacht? And he's like, yeah. We said no, but everyone keeps asking about it. So I think we're like, the venue this year is where the yacht took off last year. And anyone who's listening to this podcast, if you get your tickets now, you get the yacht for free because we haven't added it to the prices yet. So that's that'll probably be available for the next few days. Hopefully I'll post the podcast.
Hurry up and get your tickets because the yacht's not cheap.
Yeah. We'll probably charge $500 this year for the yacht. Yeah. And it's $500.
But that's a pretty good deal if you buy your tickets to the conference now and you get your yacht.
Exactly. Yeah. The yacht was expensive. It was like $12,000 last year. We'll probably have to pay like $15,000-$20,000 this year for it. Sure. So it ain't cheap. But I mean, if you went to Miami and you split the cost of a yacht with your friends, you'd probably pay $500-$700, if not more, $1,000 a head. All right. Where can they find you guys at?
That's down here at the bottom, if you can see it. I'm at the Heat_AMZ.
Yep. And we'll add all your socials below. Instagram is the best way to reach out to you?
Instagram is the best way.
Yep. Awesome. Sweet. Thanks so much for coming on, guys.
We don't bite. Yeah. Ask questions.
Unless you want to
slide in the DMs. They're wide open for you guys. All right. Thank you, guys.
Avery, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. It's great to talk.
100%.